Hello, everyone. Welcome to the panel 2 discussion of the SheCrypt event. Today, we have some amazing panelists with us who are going to be discussing on a topic which is widely known in the Web3 and the blockchain space. And I'm sure all of you would be thinking the same thing. And that is why we have amazing panelists who are going to share who's going to share their insights on this topic. And this topic that we're going to be talking about today is going to be about breaking barriers, thriving in a man-dominated industry. Now, before that, my name is Sachar, and I'm a community and events manager here at Tezos India. SheCrypt is an event which is a Tezos India initiative aimed to increase awareness about the women in crypto, their achievements and opportunities for women. Blockchain has already improved business operation in many sectors, and SheCrypt believes women are going to drive this innovation forward. And today we have amazing panel who stick to that statement, who are doing amazing things in the world of blockchain and Web3. Let me introduce you to the panel. First, we have Poorvi Sachar, who is the head of developer adoption for Tezos India. Welcome, Poorvi. Thank you so much for making it. We have Jiang, who is the CEO and co-founder of Bluejay Finance. Thank you so much, Sherry, for making it. Karin, who is the institutional sales director, APAC for Fireblocks. Thank you so much, Karin, for joining the discussion. And we have Marisa McKnight, who is the founding partner of MultiSummit. Thank you so much, Marisa, for joining. This session is going to be moderated by Dheeraj, who is a pretty well-known figure in the Twitter space, in India Twitter space, who is also the podcast host with Web3 with D and has his own collection of NFTs. And now I shall pass the stage over to Dheeraj. Dheeraj, please go on.
Hey, thank you so much. And everyone, welcome to SheCrypt. This panel is super interesting because we are talking about breaking barriers, and as crypto has been the most mainly male dominated industry, but things are changing, right? Like we're in 2022, we have amazing people in this industry who are adding more diversity, and a bunch of them are with us in this panel. So just want to say hi to Karin, hi to Sherry, Poorvi, Marisa. Welcome to this panel, and I'm really happy to talk to you and understand more about you and understand more of your journeys. So welcome, guys. Maybe we'll dive right into it. This is an open question to all. We can go first Karin, then Sherry, then Poorvi, then Marisa. We know, right? This industry has been dominated by males for the longest time, right? So it had this stereotype of nerd coders ruling this industry. But there are few women who have been super rock stars in this industry. Who is someone who you look up to or think is an inspiration in Web3 crypto or even otherwise? So we'll start with Karin.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on, guys. My name is Karin. I'm from Fireblocks. So to answer your question, I'm going to cheat here a bit, right? I have two main superstars with me. I will shout out to Amy Jiang. She's our VP of sales in Fireblocks, and also Carol Sun, another sales director that we have. So my working relationship is we interact on a daily basis. They have been very empowering, very generous to share their experience, their product expertise, and even their things like how do we navigate certain challenges and also roadblocks that we have. So apart from me just being like a direct beneficiary of this relationship with them, I think that has also helped to set a very open culture for us in the Fireblocks office, APAC office especially. That sets a culture of openness, empowering, and also allowing us to be independent females. And so apart from me just being able to express myself freely in that kind of sense, that also gives me the comfort that the next generation of female talent that I bring on board can also benefit from this kind of culture we have at Fireblocks. So I think that's the short answer to you, and that's how I think I've been a direct beneficiary, and also the team, the people in my team.
Thank you for sharing that. Sherry, would you like to take that question?
So I think there are honestly a lot of amazing women in crypto. I think one thing great is so I'm in Singapore. By the way, quick intro, I'm the CEO, co-founder of Bluejay. We're a stablecoin protocol that's focused on Asian currencies. And so being based in Singapore, there's actually some community of women that are in crypto that we've, actually been able to have meetups and just be able to feel like, we're obviously not alone. And there's a lot of women that are doing amazing things. So, I think that there's, not one single person that I think, there's a lot of people that I look up to. If I do have to maybe just give one example of somebody who I think is a great thought leader, who I have not actually met personally, is somebody who goes by Tasha Labs on Twitter. She writes about a lot of interesting macro perspectives in the crypto industry. So some of the interesting thinking has been around how blockchain economies are almost like nation economies, and how there's a whole idea around kind of building the industries within the blockchain, just like building industries within a country is kind of like dApps within a blockchain ecosystem. So I keep up with her content and think that it's incredibly interesting. And so definitely seeing tons of women like her on a thought leadership front, but also just tons of women within Singapore just supporting each other and bringing more people into the space.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Sherry. Poorvi, again, like a small introduction, where you from, and then let's go ahead with the answer.
Sure. So I'm Poorvi and I'm head of operations at Tezos India. I'm currently based out of India, Bangalore. But right now I'm in Singapore. So maybe I can catch up with Sherry. Yeah, so I think, again, for me also, it's not an easy question, because a lot of women inspire us every day. Even the ones in the panels are doing that for me right now. Yeah. So the careers that we're trying to build in this space, and everybody's trying to, figure out the pieces together and promoting and helping each other out is beautiful. So currently at the top of my mind, I'm thinking of 3 women, sorry. So first is Marisa. I really appreciate how she's promoting the community, the crypto space overall, funding through her CoinShare ventures, as well as our own funds, right? So that's really inspiring. Second is Kathleen Brittman, and for those who do not know, she's the co-founder of Tezos, and I think she herself is an example that women can make a difference, and they can build something as huge as Tezos blockchain, right? Something that's scalable. And third is Yam Kurkai, who's the artist for World of Women NFT collection, and not just, so obviously her art inspires me a lot, how she's built it all around, women, and also how she's built the community around women, and they're again supporting more women projects in turn. So it's like a chain, right? So just a trend that we're trying to create. A lot of blue chip projects that men resonate with, right? Basie, Macy, etc., etc. So, having WOW is something that, women can, feel connected to more. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Poorvi. Marisa.
Yeah, hi everyone. Nice to meet you all, and thanks for having me. So yeah, my name's Marisa. I've spent most of my time in the crypto ecosystem between Tokyo and Singapore, but I'm American and Japanese. So kind of coincidentally, I think a lot of the women, as everyone has mentioned here, there's really so many women in the industry to look at for role models, I think, in all these places. But I would say that really early on in my journey, some of the thought leaders that really made an impact on me personally, and also kind of from afar, I would say one is Miss Bitcoin Mai in Tokyo. Miss Bitcoin Mai kind of is really one of the main Tokyo crypto OGs. She started out not even speaking any English, and she, quickly got into the global crypto ecosystem and kind of became a big representative for Tokyo. and for Japan. And she's on the, she's working with very much so many new crypto projects, mining projects, payment projects. I think right now she's in El Salvador. So she really has like put herself out there and been on the forefront, I think, in terms of like women in Japan. And then I would say another one that I really appreciate is Lauren Shin. She's the editor for Forbes and also runs the Unchained podcast. And I think anyone in crypto, when you first get started to learn and, learn about crypto, probably one of the first podcasts you'll come across is the Unchained podcast. And I think that she makes it super digestible and easy to understand for everyone. And so, both those people I think are very amazing. And then also, as Sherry mentioned, also I think Meltem, lastly, coming from kind of a finance background and coming into crypto, I think she's really pushed the institutional agenda of adoption in crypto. I think CoinShares was one of the first ETP providers in the EU. So I think, those are the three people, as Miss Bitcoin for adoption, Lauren Shin for education, and Meltem for pushing the financial adoption of crypto.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And we got like such diverse bunch of individuals. It's just nice to see, right? Like it's good to know, like, there are different people who are inspiring you in different ways. So it's really nice to see that. I would like to ask my next question to Sherry. And I would want to know, right? Like, what are some strengths which, women bring in the Web3 ecosystem? Because I personally want to know this because, we work in a very similar environment, but we don't see how working in diversity can add on to someone's company, someone's business, to the entire ecosystem. So I want to know, what are some strengths?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest one really is around contributing diversity of thought. And so, women are half the world's population. And then even within women, you can segment into different intersectionalities as well, like younger age based on gender, ethnicity, things like that. But just having people represent different backgrounds, I think bring just better ideas overall, because then you're solving for more than just, one type of user with one certain type of context. So I think that's one of the first ones. And the other one is that, it's no surprise that oftentimes there's a feedback loop where if you have a lot of people of one type in an industry, that you tend to refer in people that also look and talk and come from the same background. And so I've actually seen from even my previous world where I worked in big tech, where if you did hire, a senior woman in an engineering position, that you actually see the junior engineers coming in also being women. And so it's like women attract other very, very talented women and just overall build, more diverse teams. I think that it's still, early days in terms of where we're at with crypto. I think one of the numbers that I saw recently is that out of, I think 121 of the top crypto companies, I think only 5 of them had at least one female founder. So that's 4%. So it's getting there. I mean, I think that, it's still early days, but I think having just anyone who steps in and says, look, I want to kind of, I guess, break that boundary and then bring in more people is sort of that first step. So those are some of my thoughts around the strength that women leaders bring.
Shay, I have a follow-up question, right? We know this, crypto has been male dominated, but what about the newer startups, right? Like newer Web3 companies? Do you personally see, you live in Singapore, do you personally see more women co-founders, more women in leadership roles? Like, is the landscape changing a bit, or is it still the same?
I think it is changing a little bit. And I feel like every few days I do meet women project founders. More recently, I actually was at I think it's called the Draper House. So it's actually one of these interesting communities where like, founder or people or entrepreneurs are interested in entrepreneurship kind of travel and stay in these places. And they were doing a talk. And I actually was able to meet somebody who is the founder of Orca, which is a decentralized exchange on Solana. And she's one of the newer kind of, I guess, female leaders or founders I've seen in the space. And it was really inspiring to actually hear her talk, because she talked specifically about her background in UX design and how she's applying it to make the experience of trading crypto just much, much more user-friendly, which I think is an area that is missing in a lot of the, I think, initial protocols. So again, I think diversity of thought is one of the key strengths. And so yeah, I'm definitely seeing more and more. And so that's the part that gets me excited.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And it's good to hear. And it's good to understand, like, what's happening currently. My next question is to Poorvi. How do you think, like, how do you think someone should enter, like, break, or like, what's the easier way, right? Like carve into Web3 when you have not been, and especially when you're a woman. Are there any challenges? Is it easy? Or like, what is the best way to go about it, Poorvi? As you have also joined the industry, so like, a little bit learning from you, and just like general advice as well.
Yeah. So actually, the only thing that we should keep in mind is that we need to start simple and start now, right? We should not care about, like, we know less and we are new to this industry. There are people who've been into this from like 3-4 years. What if we do not know about this or that? So we should not care about all of that stuff, because it's like a giant ocean, right? Nobody can know all of it, right? So you should believe in your expertise and try to enter the area that you think you can add to. And considering it's very new, right? Considering that there are a lot of startups that are still building up, you'll get a lot of roles and opportunities as well, right? So I'm a management professional. I have a developer background, right? But my interest was to stay in management. I could have gotten into a developer role. So I had so many options when I wanted to enter. But the right thing to do is always enter as per your expertise, your skills, as well as your interest, and you'll have like a lot of things to do. And the only advice that I give to all my other employees and developers and the people and the women I meet on a day-to-day basis is just start now, start simple. Do not think that you need to know it all. You will always learn. It's a journey, right? You learn in the process. So you meet people, you learn from them. There's so many. So even if I talk about a blockchain, right, there's so many blockchains. Within a blockchain, there's so many dApps, there's so many tracks, there's so many things to learn, right? So, and the other thing that I recommend people to do is, start experimenting. So until unless you play around, right? So you always say that practical experience is something that stays with you. It's not theoretical. You cannot learn it, right? You have to just start twittering. You have to, follow a lot of people and understand. In fact, influencers, they teach you a lot, right? People, podcasts, go through that. And, just experience with dApps, put your money, just see how DeFi is working, how it's helping you generate yields and stuff. So when you know stuff, you gain more confidence and you understand it better. So that are the two things. Mm-hmm. So one is like starting simple, and the second one is just experiment, and also try to get jobs which pay you in crypto rather than you putting your own money, because initially if anything gets messed up, then you try to lose faith in the entire process, and that should not happen, I think, because it still has a bright future.
That's a great advice. And I think what people don't realize is we have moved way past only the tech jobs, right? Like now, like whatever you do in traditional industry, or like in big tech, or like Web2, or like even if you've never worked in tech, you can still come and add some or the other value to the industry and to a company, because there are way more companies and there's way more requirements than there are skilled people. So the best thing is you can learn on the job. And we like, at least from what I understand in India, we've been always complaining, like, people teach us theory and that's all they do, right? Like all these education we do, they never teach us practical, but this is completely flipped. You have to get your hands dirty. You have to like load $10 or $15 or $100, whatever you can afford to lose, or you don't even do that. Like you go and contribute to a DAO, make that first $100, $500, you get paid very nicely. If as Asians, we get paid according to, like, what's being paid in America. So like it's very much it's a lot of money, right? Like, so you can play around with it, learn, and find some projects, right? Like if you want to contribute, if you like what they're doing, directly approach, and like, you will get a job. It's become very simple. And like, what I also like is, like, even if you're an anonymous person, if you contribute, still you can make it without revealing your name, age, gender, anything. So that's just beautiful, right? Like, so just wanted to put it out there. Okay, my next question is to Marisa. Marisa, tell me about an incident or a time when, like, you thought like, oh my God, I broke a barrier, and like, this is, I fit in Web3 or crypto, and like, you realize, like, you can do way more in this industry, like you can thrive for it. Like, so any such kind of incident?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's been a few instances, but there's been kind of a common theme. Like I mentioned, I kind of started in Japan, and I think even the overall working culture is very much male dominated. But as I think all the panelists have mentioned, we're so early in this space and we're only at the tip of the iceberg, and there's kind of space for everyone. So you can really break barriers in a lot of areas. I think in particular, the area that I found myself growing or breaking the most barriers was like in terms of like making partnerships. I think a lot of the crypto male dominated industry, a lot of them are very competitive. They work in silos, I think, a lot of the time. And I think one value that women can add to the table is thinking very broadly and creatively about how to bring kind of win-win situations in place. And then I think another thing is in terms of like sales, your product is only as strong as who is actually using it. And I think what a lot of women can bring to the table is making things much more easy to understand and user-friendly, and actually promoting user adoption. I think that's been another area that, traditionally we've had all these, engineering type of people make it really hard to use and be really proud of their product. But the reality is that you have to be able to also sell the product and be able to use it. So I think in a lot of ways, the areas of like, creativity, collaboration, and making things easy to use is an area that all of us women have really strong strengths. And this is like the disruption of, finance, payments, technology, and overall all types of business models. So, there's even been lots of professionals, I think, in like the legal compliance round that have pushed in all these areas. And if you look at a lot of those professionals that are leading in this space, that are pushing for regulation, I think there's a lot of women on the forefront. And that also, really represents that, we can thrive in this industry.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Marisa. Awesome. So, Karin, a question for you. But again, right, like guys, these questions are open for everyone. If anyone wants to take in, add something what other speaker has said, you can please go on. So, Karin, this is a question for you. How do we onboard more women to Web3, and what can we do to make the transition easier? If you can share your story about how did you get into Web3, that would help us understand even more. So yeah.
Yeah, of course I can share that. So I think the first way and the most direct way is actually what we are doing now, right? Basically having more informal sessions like that. When people look at us, when people look at the local communities, seeing that there's actually a way for you to build a career, not just in crypto, in blockchain, in tech, that helps to empower the next wave of generation coming in. And even for myself today, I mean, after hearing all the panelists, right, it makes me feel very excited and also even more like, getting a bit of that boost from them. So it's also us just, giving us each other that kind of encouragement. I think on a company level, it's also pretty much a individual, regional kind of culture, also a top-down approach. So just to share how it works for us, like I mentioned earlier, for us in APAC at Fireblocks, there's a lot of emphasis of also hiring female people into our team. So that's the culture we create for us in the APAC office. And even from a top-down approach, there is that emphasis that a company wants to hire more women. So case in point, March is the International Women's Month week event, right? So for every female employee that we bring on or a successful referral, we will get 3 times the referral fee. So anyone that wants to refer clients or people to join, that's one way of getting us started to basically get more talent on board into the company. So I think the final way, and also one thing that is most often overlooked, right, by the general public, when we're always talking about females, we should not forget the males that are also supporting us at the sidelines, right? The quiet males. So it's not only enough to have a strong female leader that you aspire and look towards, but you also need to have the daily guys around you, creating that supportive environment for you to thrive, for you to create a career, and for you to basically build your career upwards. So for me and my story here, 2 examples. My previous manager within the business development team, he worked with me very closely to carve out my career plans and my career progression. And that's how I moved from business development into sales at Fireblocks. And even from a day-to-day basis, right, I look to my fellow sales directors. We'd have like an open dialogue and open exchange of information. So I share product knowledge, process knowledge, because I've been here longer. And at the same time, they give me advice and tips on how to be better and how to be more efficient. So we have this very open working culture that I think that can help, build and also encourage more people to join here.
Hey, thank you for sharing. And I really like, you wanted to say something, Poorvi?
Yeah. You were saying something first, complete.
Go for it.
Okay, all right. So I just wanted to add that, doing these informal discussions, of course, apart from this, we also have like mentorship sessions as a part of this campaign, right? So I think not just women, every person should have like a mentor or an advisor that can guide you, right? So at times people are in self-doubt or need some kind of external validation. That happens with everybody. That's normal, right? So we should always have someone that we can look up to. We can discuss, we can talk about it, talk it out, and, feel better. So, in order to provide our women participants as SheCrypt women participants with mentorship, we have also collaborated with Pink Stripes. So I think taking up such initiatives can also help. And I really like the referral idea.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I what I took away is like, yes, one aspect is, yes, let's get more women, but like, also we have to work with people who like make this environment possible, right? Like, so you have to be cohesive as a unit and not just like, oh, it's Women's Month and like let's hire and then like fire them or something like that, right? Like we have to build an environment which is thriving, which helps with diversity, so like your company or whatever you're doing can sustain for a longer period of time. And what all of you guys are doing is like you're making the better word is safe spaces, right? Like as you grow the ecosystem, the more safe spaces there are, and then more and more women would want to enter this ecosystem because, oh, there are people like Marisa, there are people like Sherry, Poorvi, and Karin to help them navigate whatever is happening ahead. So it just creates a ripple effect. You know what, guys, I have a question. This is just, you can choose not to answer it as well, and anyone who wants to answer. Crypto also has been very dominated by men from United States, right? Like the entire thing has been being built in US, and yeah, but like, you know, over last few years, I'm seeing a lot of influence from East, be it India, be it Japan, be it Korea, be it like any even China, right? Like, so what are your thoughts about, like, you know, I just want to understand, like, you know, we have more representation. We can go and I can look at an Indian leader, I can look at a Korean leader, at let's say a Jiho, who's like, you know, killed Axie Infinity to like the maximum level, and like we have way more people who, like, you know, we can look up to. Like, what is your opinion on this? Like, does it help to see like, you know, people from Asia succeed? And like, you know, does it help you say, like, you know, I can also build a company which can go on to become a unicorn, or like, you know, we can also do something like this? Because the tech crypto has just been like so American. So I just want to hear anyone's opinion. Anyone wants to take this?
Yeah, I actually have, oh, yeah, I have a few things to share here. I mean, first of all, I think that is a great thing, right? Because the best ideas, again, are they come when you engage the most number of minds collectively collaborating and thinking about them. And so I think that recently, I mean, we've actually seen a huge growth in the number of new spaces and ideas within crypto originating from places like Asia. So one of the spaces that has been really big in the last year in 2021 actually has been GameFi. So you have like Axie Infinity, which almost everybody should know about by this point, as well as like guilds like YGG, really just you know, really pioneering this whole play to earn space. And you know, outside of Axie, I mean, there's actually a robust like crypto ecosystem in Bangkok, as well as you know, Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi in Vietnam as well. And so, you know, on one hand, there's a lot more kind of local market engagement where you're bringing in like, you know, the users in the market and getting their feedback on the products and building for them. On the other hand, there's this like kind of outward effect where, you know, I think it's easier than any time before in history to recruit talent and get people excited and build community around the world, right? And so before I actually used to live in Silicon Valley, so I'm well aware of this like kind of echo chamber, like retention of talent in one place. But I think that dominance is slowly dissipating, where suddenly your geographic location is not a constraint anymore, and you're actually able to find anybody around the world who shares and is aligned with your vision, building with you. And just to give you a little bit of reference on our side, I mean, we're a small startup right now with Bluejay. We have about 9 people, but we have someone in France. We have folks in Thailand, in Indonesia. So just across so many different markets. And, you know, to be honest, it actually does bring a ton of interesting diversity of thought, where I actually have someone to talk to and ask about, you know, what's the conversation about, honestly, religion and crypto in a place like Indonesia, and how do you handle that nuance? And I think that's really possible when you're able to collaborate at that scale. So super excited and bullish about it. I think that there's going to be more and more companies that are created around the world.
That's awesome. I would like to share one story which I saw on Twitter. So there's this person called Goltra, who used to work with coins.ph and then Binance, and then now he's in YGG. And when he was, so this is what he posted, when he was hiring at coins.ph, he saw his peers laughing at him, right? They're like, oh, why would you even take up this job? You're working at Silicon Valley. Way too cool, right? Like, why would you want to work in the Philippines market, like, you know, when you can work for the world? And like, you know, a few years later, when they're they're hiring for YGG, he sees the same peers who have been working for Silicon Valley. They want to come and help build this guild and get that culture approach ahead. So this is a small story out of Philippines, which I found very interesting, how times have changed, and it's harder for Silicon Valley to retain the the talent, because they are not the only people who are paying as much. So it's just interesting to see if anyone wants to add anything to this. But thank you for sharing that story, Sherry.
Yeah,
Okay.
I also just one quick thing to add is that I think whenever you also open up your crypto product to the world, it's really becomes a global business. You have no idea where your users are going to come from because the industry is so borderless. So naturally, we don't necessarily need to be so focused on getting, I think Silicon Valley influence is still quite prevalent, but reality is that user base and numbers are mostly sitting outside, or there's quite a bit still sitting outside of US, especially in Southeast Asia. So, I think it's great that we have this representation, and I think there'll be more and more, distribution than what we saw previously in tech and Web3.
Awesome.
And if I can add on to also Sherry's point earlier on new use cases and things like that. So I think, yes, while Silicon Valley leads a lot of the crypto initiatives, but as of late, when you have things like NFTs, right, there are a lot more use cases around NFTs, and I'm seeing new use cases in the APAC market that has not been explored in previous other markets yet. So in fact, locally, I have people asking me, how do you NFT luxury products, maybe watches, maybe collectible items? How do you do that, and how do you spread it across the APAC market? So I look towards my US peers. Have they done such use cases before? I think at that point of time also, they are also quite nascent here. So yes, some of the use cases are also very unique to APAC. We may be able to implement certain workflows, but it's also very unique to the certain markets.
Can you? I am just curious. Can you give some examples, so people understand what are people in APAC doing differently with NFTs, or just ideas?
General ideas today. I think generally, so what I'm looking at is a more of a luxury item. So your daily collectibles could be watches, could be maybe wine, things like that. At the same time, there's also kind of interest around real estate. How do I do that? How do I tokenize? How do I sell my private property? So that's also where I look at my US counterparts, my partners, and see how they have done it, and talk about the workflows and how we can do something similar within the APAC context.
Awesome.
Yeah, and also building extensions for existing marketplaces, and making NFT more valuable by making it an asset, right? Generating yields. So there are products that's helping generating yields, etc., right, on NFTs. So I've seen a lot of projects that are built in India, and also not specifically on Ethereum. I've seen a lot of solutions on Tezos these days that are not there on Ethereum yet. So yeah, it's completely a different landscape altogether.
Awesome.
But again, it's again, I would say that it's not limited by geography, right? So all of these already mentioned that your user base is global, right? And also the most important thing is that when we talk about tech, right, so you cannot limit tech also to a specific place, right? So it was there because of lack of awareness in other regions, and I think in Asia we're doing our bit to to reach to as many people as we can, and we're getting a lot of new ideas, new thoughts from this space.
Awesome. I loved hearing all of your views. It's amazing. So guys, all of you are in leadership roles. So I just want to understand what you are doing, or what you're organizing. And if you have answered this, you can feel free not to answer it again. To bring more women into Web3, right? So I think when you are in leadership role and when you are not, it makes a huge difference, right? So I just want to hear some personal stories and just anything. We can start with Marisa and and then anyone who wants to take it after that.
Sorry, one more time.
Yes. So as you guys are like in leadership role.
Oh, how are we bringing in more women in this space, right? I think it's, I guess, just always be a listening hand, and also just, being helpful with sharing educational materials. I think even within my own friend groups or circles, I think everyone knows me as that like crypto person. So just always being a listening ear and, being open to answering any questions or even suggesting, sharing, some new use cases or, teaching them about cryptocurrency, I think is something that I think I do probably on a daily basis. And then I think, and then that's pretty much I'm what I'm doing most of the time. And then just always being having a voice in this space. I think it's important that people know that there are other women, as you mentioned. I think just by joining this panel, we're all encouraged by hearing each other's voices and thoughts around the space. So I think that it's important to kind of make a conscious effort to put yourself out there and, tweet or post on LinkedIn or, just make sure that people know that you exist and, put your voice out there. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for Karin.
Yes, you noticed that I want to add on. So I think from my side, it is more of as we build out the local team here. So I have a team of 4 BD reps with me here. And it's also about when you're looking at resumes and we are looking about onboarding new people, keeping that very objective lens, right? So you're really evaluating them based on their experience and what they can bring to the table. So case in point, today I have a team of 4 guys, actually 1 lady and 3 guys, and the lady is doing exceptionally well. So the culture we try to create within the company and the team is also for her to be free to express her views, and she's also free to and empowered to express her challenges as much as she hears from her male peers. So that is one aspect in terms of hiring, and also just being like I think someone mentioned earlier on, being a mentor or being like a career guide or to people around us. So I do have guys from NUS, my ex-juniors or things like that, or people even from banking saying that, hey, how do you make that transition over? I think if we can help to give that kind of information, reduce the uncertainty for them, that will help them to make the leap into Web3.
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead, Poorvi.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think when I was doing my role as a developer adoption, I have motivated a lot of women developers in this space. So the first time that I joined Tezos India, I got to know that we run a flagship event, Tezos India Fellowship, right? And last year when we did it, we did not have any women participant, right? So my first focus was to get like at least few women as a part of this course, right? So we so the problem that I face, motivating women developers is it's new and it's risky, although it's exciting, but then you're always in doubt whether we'll be able to pull this off or not. So I motivated them and bring them on. So with developers, I have done that a lot. Like there are a lot of women developers that I know are doing they're working on their own projects right now, right? Some of them are like working directly with the co-founders, founders, so doing really, really well. And apart from that, I also feel that, currently my team has 50% women. Okay. So, and they're doing really, really well. And it's not like we were biased towards hiring more women. We're not biased against men, right? But it was like, we have an open culture, right? Where people can, speak for themselves. Even if you're a woman, you should not be hesitant to talk, right? And even if you're new to this space, not just men or women, I just, tell it to everybody, just speak, ask questions, say, be vocal, right? Because there's a space, this is like, this is purely democratic. Nobody cares which position you belong to. All that matters is what you're saying and whether it makes sense or not, right? So that's how I do. I mean, I'm trying to motivate other women in this space, like who are who are non-developers, right? So maybe some marketing professionals, and also there I have a large group of friends, right, from engineering, management, and all of them have heard about it. So not for jobs, at times I just motivate them to understand this space, because there's the next big thing, like all of us believe that. So maybe you do not have to be part of it, but just try to understand what it does. So that's the idea.
I think that's great. And also, Tezos India is doing like panels like this. They curated an entire mentorship and panels throughout the month. I think it's great, right? Like when I first heard, I'm like, how can I help? How can I contribute? And like, thank you for getting me here and doing this. We have some audience questions as well. So like, we can move on to that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dheeraj. Thank you so much to all of you. That was a lovely panel. I just did not want to unmute at all. I just wanted you guys to talk, but we have time limits. So we'll get on with the questions. So the first question is pretty simple. Anybody of you can take it. Dheeraj, you can as well. Please participate in answering these. How much time do you think will it take for a person to move from Web 2 to Web 3? Anyone can take this.
I would like to go through this. So either it could be 0 minutes or it could be 4 years, right? Like the only thing what I would recommend you to like not look at this like that, like, oh, I want to transition, but like our guest mentioned, like you go in, you do your research, and the more time you spend in, the easier it becomes. Because for even us, a lot of us, we also don't know a lot of things happening in Web3, right? Like we are picking our own niches, and that's how we have entered, right? Like if Sherry has been in big tech, right? Like what is the closest thing you can do in Web3 related to big tech so you can make the quick transition, right? Like, so something like that. If you're a graphic designer, if you just join an NFT project, you can start like this, right? Like, because it's this thing. But like as a developer, obviously Poorvi can tell you like, how much time you need to learn and train and like go over it. But the more time you spend, the easier it gets, right? Like, but you need to go and get your hands dirty. Otherwise, it's not an easy transition, right? Like you can't just read. Reading will give you very less, but like doing will make it easy. And once you are in, even if you do internship, even if you work for free, it's a good learning experience. If anyone else wants to take, I think Poorvi would like to answer.
Yeah, so I think like Dheeraj mentioned, it could be 0 minutes, right? So it totally depends like which path you want to take, right? If you want to be a developer, even then, there are blockchains that are using purely simple technology, right? So even I can speak for Tezos, it just uses a normal version of Python, right? And we have a lot of Python developers all over the world. So it's not going to be very difficult for a developer point of view as well, right? For artists, it's very simple. You can join a community if you want to, like, so the first step to do this is like, first you should join Twitter, and you should, start engaging yourself in a lot of activities, because that kind of gives you a self boost and confidence that yes, you belong to this community, right? So first, in order to belong, you need to feel that. So once you do that, after that, you'll come across a lot of roles and responsibilities that you can be a part of. So I would again mention, buying a Bitcoin is not entering Web3, right? Entering Web3 is believing in the fundamentals and the principles of it. You should not ask your friends, where should I invest to multiply money? It's not a shortcut to multiply money. Okay. You should believe in the core and the fundamentals of what you're doing, right? When you say DeFi, decentralized finance, learn what it is, right? What it means. It's bigger. It means it itself, itself a word that means a lot, right? So you should definitely see, explore. And entering doesn't mean that you have to take a job there. Entering means you are exploring. That is also entering, right? But just do not confuse it with multiplying money again.
If I can offer maybe just a liner there, right? I think Marisa also mentioned this earlier on in terms of many use cases. So if you can just take the approach of problem solving, right, that will help you identify the areas as to where you can start to enter Web3. So blockchain is so widespread. You can have stablecoin payments, you can have institutional trading, you can do even the back end and development work. So there's so many different ways that's out there within us that you can get started. You don't necessarily have to make like a super huge leap. And once you try to solve the problems within your community, that is a way to get started already. So don't think too much there. Don't try to put too many hurdles in front of you.
I would just like to add a couple things in that whatever I tell you and how I learned Web3 and got into it might not be true for you. It's really actually an understanding of who you are as a person and what kind of contributions you like to make. So if you are somebody who likes to actively learn and engage in conversations with people, and that's how you get into the space, you can attend a conference. Travel is now much more possible and actually just meet people, right? I think in general, people in Web3 are very excited to get more people in Web3. Again, new people, new ideas, better products, right? And so I think for other people, it might really actually be like, I want to spend time reading academic papers about, Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper or whatever. Like, I think for some people, that's where they want to start. And some are builders and want to start tinkering around on products or start designing. So it's a question you just have to ask yourself around who are you? And like, how do you want to learn? And then I think it's basically like a state of mind of dedicating yourself to learning this, right? And so I think at a certain point, you realize you've gone down the rabbit hole in a certain sense when you just think about it all the time and are constantly finding new articles, new interesting ideas, new conversations to engage in a specific area.
I love that. I love that perspective, Sherry. And on the lighter note, your first tweet when you tweet GM is the time you entered Web3. So anyway. Yeah,
that is true. That is true. Thank you so much. So I guess it was really good points mentioned by the panelists over here. I think everybody has a way to get in, and everybody needs to carve out their way inside the industry. Like, I don't know, most of us would have done it through Twitter or through YouTube. So wherever the information is lying, we can take it. The second question is, I don't know if this has already been addressed, but I will again ask the question. What problems did the panel face in the early stage when you started your journey in Web3, and how did you overcome like the right beginning the problems? What would they be?
Yeah, I can speak for myself. I think there's a lot of information and it gets overwhelming when you just start. So, when I used to come across an article, so I always had this habit of, digesting the complete information. So that was I used to like dig deeper into the articles, and also I used to save them to study later, but that later never came, right? So I understood that, whenever you're getting anything to read, anything interesting you come across, just go through it. And once you start understanding the space well, then even if it's like a 15-page article, within 2 pages you'll understand the context. And I think speed is very important, right? Once you enter, the speed is very important. So as much as possible, you should digest as much content as possible, and that too at a faster pace.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'd like to hear what Sherry has to say, because like as a founder, right, like like you will have a different kind of perspective to this.
I have to say, sometimes the biggest struggle is actually fighting with yourself and your sense of belonging, right? I think, as just a reference, I think in terms of the people you interact with in this space, a lot of times it's other founders as well as investors, right? And in general, this 5% number or so is true across the board, right? And so it's you, and no one else, I believe, is like thinking this, but it's almost this like this feeling you have inside yourself that like, oh, I don't really look like anyone here. Like I don't know any, no one's quite like me. But then I think it's about, turning that voice on its head and saying, look, the fact that I am different and other people coming in are different and bringing a unique perspective is a strength, right? And just like telling that voice to, be quiet and that you actually do belong in your own way. So, I think that's the internal side, but the external side is also recognizing that your voice, the way it is actually perfectly fine, and you should always be yourself. And this is something I think Marisa talked about earlier, and that there is this language, I would say, in crypto Twitter, on telegrams, that can get really like shilly, like during like the bull cycle, everyone's talking about like what to ape into, things like that. And I mean, for some people that's really not them, and actually that is a bit more myself as well. I like engaging in more like long form discussions, talk sharing articles, things like that, talking about the user side. So I think finding your own voice and knowing that like it's different and unique, and it's a good thing, is that step. But I don't think it's always that easy. It's something that like you sometimes have to actively fight. So
True, that is definitely true. Karin?
I think mainly for me, I hear Sherry's point, right? I think it's also about really believing and trusting that what you can do, and also bring your strengths forward to this space. So that is one. For me, I think the challenges were very practical. I came from a non-technical background. So I did economics in school. I did film studies. So there's totally unrelated major. But I was just very curious about how things and how blockchain was fundamentally transforming certain industries. So back then I was with banking, and I could see that, it's affecting various arms of the banking industry. So just by taking that kind of curiosity angle into looking at things, sure, at the start, there will be a lot more industries for you to learn, a lot more technical and foundation to pick up on. But essentially with blockchain, once you get the foundation, it's more of what you're layering on top. So that's just building onto your existing base of knowledge. But at the same time, do not think that you can master everything at one go. Even till today, I see so many use cases. Even like during sales calls, my client tells me, do you support this token? And I'm like, what's that token? I've not heard about it before, right? So my clients are also telling me about things that I have not heard before. And it's also, that's the way the whole space is evolving. It will move so fast. So don't feel disheartened that you're not keeping up as quickly. Just try your best to, just keep with the pace and, just move accordingly. Yeah, no one will know everything. I think that's the point also.
True. Marisa, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I think that's a totally valid point. I think when I entered, it just felt like everyone was an expert, and I was just, so shocked that everyone seemed to be knowing what they're talking about. But yeah, reality is that everyone only has a very, very small view of everything because there's so much information everywhere. I think but anything that you hear that someone is an expert, I think always have a little question of skepticism is what I always tell like new people coming in. And then the other challenge, I think, was that there's always these like news articles that are saying, X company raised this amount of money, or X company is doing this. And I think there's always so much articles of all this like success and accomplishment. But I think a lot of it's sometimes overinflated. And then another thing is that it doesn't talk about the actual like, the grit and maybe the lack of sleep that went into building those projects for like 2 years before you finally see that announcement, right? So I think it's important to just remember that, even when you're working really hard, and that that you're going to get probably get there at some point because the industry is growing and moving in this direction. But just that not to get distracted from all these kinds of like announcements and success stories, because I think they don't really reflect the 90% of the population who's out there building every day too. And just to be able to just take it one day at a time, and try not to get too distracted as well. Is just, stick to who you are, and, speak your language, as Sherry mentioned, and be able to kind of focus and try not to get distracted by all these things. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much. I think nobody asked me, but I'll answer. As soon as I got into Web3, I was going and researching on all the abbreviations. What is WAGMI? What is HODL? What is BIRD? The spellings were just out there everywhere. So that was very new for me. Thank you so much, panel, for sharing that. I have last two questions. Since Karin mentioned that she's from a non-technical background, Himanshu wants to know, what are the opportunities for people from non-technical background? Of course, we do know we do have management styles and companies, so not everybody from non-technical also can come in, but what are the opportunities on a whole?
Yeah, for sure, I can take that. So I think in general, there's always neither spectrums, right? You will have two sides of the things. You have the technical side and you have the business side. So for you to do well in any single role, you should not be of either spectrum. It's always a binary. So that's the same for business roles. That's also the same for technical product. You can be a developer, but if you don't have the business goal in mind, you're not building something that's helpful to the business. So keeping that in mind, there are opportunities in the crypto space, right? So I think Marisa also mentioned this earlier. You need people within the business side to do strategic development, sales, right? Business development. So it's more about the individual finding your strengths within the business side of things, and then amalgamating that with your basic technical knowledge. So I'm not very technical, but I pick up the blockchain basics, I pick up DeFi basics and things like that. So once you have that tool skill set in place, look for the overlapping areas, right? So what are you good at? Maybe I'm good at sourcing for clients, so I want to go for business development. Maybe I'm good at messaging. I can put the technical terms into very layman terms and then market my product, so I can go into marketing. So there are all these different functions within the crypto space that still needs people without a technical background, because you can offer that advantage.
Yeah, I'd like to just add on to Karin is basically, see, I have no technical background. I've done my master's in psychology. So it has nothing to do with tech, right? Like, but here we still are. But like, just like any job you do currently can have some kind of like, something to do in Web3, right? Like whatever you do, no matter how big or small, you can do something in Web3. So you just have to remember this. And like there are even way more jobs which are popping up, which like haven't existed, like a Discord moderator, like just knowing how to use Discord and setting up some APIs and whatnot. Or even if you don't have a background, you can still make 50K, 100K a year, which is a ridiculous amount, right? Like just for being active on Discord and saying hi, hello, GM to people, and like, just managing announcements and whatnot, right? Like, so these kind of opportunities also exist. You just have to go and see, right? Like no matter if you're 16 or 62, you will have some or the kind of job available. So like, just keep an eye out.
Great. Thank you so much, Dheeraj. That was really insightful. Like you said, there are a lot of jobs that are opening up and a lot of people can actually take up the opportunities. So thank you so much to all of you for joining in. It was a great 1 hour. You guys shared some amazing insights. Thanks to all of you who joined in from different time zones. We will make sure that next time we make it more comfortable for you. But we would love to have you on board next time. So thank you so much, first of all, Dheeraj, for moderating this session. It was great to have you over here. We would love to have you come back. Thank you, Poorvi, Marisa, Sherry, and Karin for responding to the mails, which is the first step, I guess. So thank you so much for accepting this. And we will definitely have a replay of the entire session. If any of you have missed out on this session, you can definitely check it out on our YouTube, Tezos India YouTube. And if you'd like to get in touch with Tezos India, you can just send out an email to hello@tezosindia.foundation. You will find all the information on the website as well. So just go there, ask all your questions, and one of us will reach out to you. And yes, that's about it. Thank you so much to all of you. I hope you have an amazing day and an amazing week ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.